Then what you're saying, Dr. Dhar, and again, it's so important because you're saying the scale of the injuries, the scale of the pelvic injuries point to the work of at least two, maybe more. Basically, then, Dr. Dhar, we are looking at a gang rape. We are looking at a gang rape and not the work of one man. And that one arrest that has been made is not the full scale of what we need at this point. Am I correct in summarizing you?
You're right, Barkha. And you have to understand that while the gentleman who's been arrested is a civic volunteer, for someone, the lady was in the seminar room in her own department. And people who are an insider would only know that the lady was there at the time by herself. So I think there needs to be more explanations as to how the lady was found alone in her room. The degree of injuries that we talked about are too much to be explained by just one man being there. So all of this put together, I would suspect that there are more people. This is, I'll put it in the words that you said, Barkha, this is the gang rape rather than one person who's actually assaulted this lady.
In which case, where does the needle of suspicion, Dr. Dhar, fall? Because you're saying something very important here, and I want our audience to take a moment to reflect on it. This is a gang rape by the evidence and the scale of the injuries that have been found on the victim's body. Where does the needle of suspicion fall? For example, about this one arrest, we know that he was a civic volunteer. Are we looking at volunteers like him? Are we looking at someone inside the hospital? What are we actually looking at?
So I think this civic volunteer has, it's been claimed that he is actually an insider, although he should not be. He's been found roaming around the hospital in the past. I think it has to be someone who's got good knowledge about what happens in the hospital, where the on-call rooms are, where the seminar room is. And at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, unless it's an insider, you would not really know what's going on with the whereabouts of this lady. So I think we shouldn't hypothesize as to who the individual might be, but it suffice to say, I think it's important that it is someone who knows about the whereabouts of this lady, the on-call, the chest department. All of this needs to be known for the crime to be perpetrated the way it has been. So I'll keep it there. I think the rest goes into the realms of hypothesis, I think.
Okay, so this much you are saying, Dr. Dhar. One, that the nature of injuries, and you mentioned pelvic injuries and a pelvic fracture. Am I correct?
That's what we have heard. So that's what the handwritten. So, there's such a lot circulating on the social media. So what's
Yeah.
come to us has been the fact that there has been multiple fractures, including a pelvic fracture. And you understand that there's a huge amount of force which needs to be applied if a lady in her early 20s or mid 20s needs to have a fracture of the pelvis. And I would think that it's going to be very difficult for one man, especially the man whose photograph you've just shown a little while ago, for him to commit a crime of the range that's been described.
Well, Dr. Dhar, first I must say that since you know the lady in question personally, my heart goes out to what you must be going through. My heart goes out to the family of this young doctor and to doctors everywhere and to women everywhere. And please accept my commiserations, my condolences, but also my anger, because I think it's very important to show some anger right now. What Dr. Dhar is telling us, that the nature of the injuries, multiple fractures, point to a gang rape, point to someone who's familiar with the geography of the hospital, whether it was a civic volunteer or somebody else. And this is as much as we know at this moment. Avantika, if you would like to comment on these revelations that have been made by Dr. Dhar, who's coming out and saying there's more than one man, at least two, maybe more. This was a gang rape. Her body has been found with multiple fractures. It is just bone chilling.
Yeah. Thank you for Barka, first of all. I also think this must be a case of gang rape because just few hours ago, a deputy CMOH of our state have clearly mentioned the postmortem report, and he has already explained that there is a huge quantity of semen sample is found from the victim's vagina, which is almost 150 grams, and which is not possible for just one man. So there must be more than two, maybe three or four person who can be accused in this case. So I also think I agree, Dr. Dhar, totally.
when we are talking about a gang rape situation, Abantika, Dr. Abantika and Dr. Dhar, we are then talking about these rapists still being out at large. And that is very worrying because, one arrest has been made. The others are still out there somewhere, Dr. Abantika. The other men, Dr. Dhar, are still out there somewhere. They are out there. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, so what do we feel about that? The fact is that the arrest has been of one man. Both of you have reason to believe, medical reason to believe, that this is the work of more than maybe even two men. This is a gang rape. So that means that the perpetrators are out there.
I mean, if what we are saying is correct, Barkha, yes, they are out there. But you think of the circumstances. This is a young lady who's worked as a trainee in the city in her own hospital. She's in the safe haven of her own department, which is a work home for her.
Yeah.
A night shift, which has gone on till about 2:30. She's gone to the seminar room to sit down and take some rest and maybe read, study it during the time. And in that safe haven, she gets attacked in the time span of 3 or 4 hours to the extent that you've described, and is then murdered. So think about, I mean, we're talking about a doctor, Barkha, but think about women at large. I mean, there are other professions, including yours, where women would go out and do night shifts. There are people who will be returning home late at night, and that's outside the safe haven of their working place. That's outdoors. So what happens to safety for women generally? I think we are talking doctors here. There's far more to it. There are women of various professions who are at risk if incidents like this is the most ghastly incident I've heard of in my entire life, to be honest. It's absolutely shocking.
Yeah, I think it's a very important point that you've made, that this is about doctors right now, but it is about all women. And I want to just bring in at this point, Dr. Syed here. We keep losing you, sir, but please go ahead with your thoughts. What you missed at this point was both Dr. Dhar and Dr. Pal talking about how only one man has been arrested. Medical evidence suggests a gang rape. Multiple men, not just two, maybe three or four even, which means that the rapists are out there, or at least the other rapists are out there. The other killers are out there.
Thank you, ma'am, for inviting me on the panel. I agree with both of my seniors. ये जो इंसिडेंट हुआ है, ये सिर्फ एक इंसान का करा हुआ नहीं था. ये जो है इसमें मल्टीपल लोगों का इन्वॉल्वमेंट है. इनिशियली तो जो स्टेटमेंट आया था एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की तरफ से, उन्होंने ये चीज़ का बोला था कि यहाँ पे जो लड़की ने सुसाइड किया है, बल्कि जो बॉडी की कंडीशन उस टाइम थी वो उनके बहुत ज़्यादा मल्टीपल उसमें जो है इंजरीज थी, जो कपड़े डॉक्टर के फटे हुए थे, उसके बावजूद भी उनके तरफ से बोला गया कि जो है कि ये लड़की ने सुसाइड किया है. तो उसी पॉइंट पे लग रहा था कि हम लोगों के कुछ ना कुछ यहाँ पे बातें घुमाई जा रही हैं. तो जिस तरीके से एक को पकड़ा गया है, लग रहा है कि किसी को स्केपगोट बनाया गया. देयर इज समवन एल्स इन्वॉल्व्ड इन दिस केस. सो वी जितने भी रेजिडेंट डॉक्टर्स हैं डिफरेंट मेडिकल कॉलेज के इन्वॉल्विंग ऑल इंडिया मेडिकल इंस्टीट्यूट एम्स एंड सफदरजंग हॉस्पिटल, KGMU लखनऊ, जितने भी इंडिया के मेडिकल कॉलेजेस हैं, सब ने अपनी OPD शट डाउन कर दी है. सब ने अपनी इलेक्टिव सर्विसेज को बंद कर दिया है, इलेक्टिव सर्जरीज को, इलेक्टिव इंटरवेंशंस को बंद कर दिया है. वी आर जस्ट रनिंग ओनली इमरजेंसी ड्यूटीज. वी आर जस्ट डूइंग अवर इमरजेंसी ड्यूटीज ताकि डॉक्टर जस्टिस मिल सके. वी आर डिमांडिंग फॉर CBI इंक्वायरी रिगार्डिंग दिस, ताकि किसी दूसरे आदमी को स्केपगोट ना बना के जो रियल विक्टिम है उसको, जो रियल इसमें कल्प्रेट है उसको पकड़ा जाए, ताकि आगे से इस चीज
जब आप कहते हैं कि रियल कल्प्रेट को पकड़ा जाए, व्हाट डू यू मीन? आपको क्यों लगता है कि जो पकड़ा गया है वो हो सकता है 4 आदमियों में से एक हो, लेकिन रियल कल्प्रेट से क्या मानना है आपका?
दिस माइट बी पॉसिबल कि उन 4 में से एक कल्प्रेट ये हो, लेकिन जो है जिस तरीके से उसने जो एक फौरन से अपने से गुनाह को कबूल कर लिया, सो स्टिल देयर आर सम सस्पेक्ट. उसने बोला है कि अकेला उसने ही किया है, तो ये चीज पॉसिबल नहीं लग रही कि एक आदमी का ही काम है ना. चीज कि जिस तरीके से टॉर्चर किया गया, जिस तरीके से मारा गया, और द मल्टीपल इंजरीज हैं उनके प्राइवेट पार्ट्स में, उनकी आईज में. शी वाज ब्लीडिंग फ्रॉम माउथ, शी वाज ब्लीडिंग फ्रॉम आईज. So I think you have read the postmortem report of this lady.